I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. We have a midweek treat. The author of this book, if you haven't got it, if you really wanted to know about the deep state, about the shadow government, the company of shadows, written by, of course, I'm giving it away, former CIA officer Kevin Shipp. Lots to talk about. Just wanted to have Kevin on just to talk about all what's going on. Let's start with Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the communist, Marxist, globalist attempted takeover of America. What do you see? What's the big theme that you're seeing? Why all this riots and violence and stuff going on now, Kevin? Oh, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, first of all, thanks for having me, Greg. Always a pleasure to be on. Well, we have to understand the roots of these organizations. Antifa is a Marxist organization. Black Lives Matter was founded by two Marxists. Black Lives Matter is connected to the Nation of Islam. These are two organizations that essentially are anti-traditional America. There's no question about it. And this is a Marxist movement. What is Marxist? That's communist. It's the same thing. And that essentially is a foundation of progressivism. So we're seeing a last gasp by the extreme left to try to stop Donald Trump. The soft coup failed, the false impeachment failed, blaming COVID-19 on Trump failed, and now they're doing one last gasp. And this is a group of Marxists trying to stop Trump and his movement from being elected, which I think is going to happen in November.
If you take a look at what's going on with these, autonomous zones, the most famous one right now, which is ridiculous, up in Seattle, Washington, which is being helped along by the Democrat governor and the Democrat mayor. These are zones in where Democrats have businesses, and Democrats are like, wow. Do you think they're going to lose a bunch of Democrats? Do you think they're internal polling? Because I'm thinking to myself, how is this a vote getter for Democrats? I'm just thinking about Democrats. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but how is this a vote getter for Democrats? They've got to be losing Democrats in droves.
Well, you've probably seen some of the videos where there have been Black Americans standing in front of their shops saying, "Look what you just did to my shop! You just looted and ruined my store." And I understand that the support for Donald Trump amongst Black Americans is at an all-time high. Nobody wants their city trashed. Nobody wants their businesses trashed. Nobody wants looting like this. So yeah, I think a lot of Black Americans are thinking, "Oh my gosh, is this the Democratic Party? And perhaps I should think twice."
What about just with the other Democrats? I mean, aren't there plenty of other Democrats that have to be looking at the Kennedy Democrats, whatever, that have to be looking at this going, well, I thought we were just going to give some people some health insurance,
Yeah.
not,
Well,
burn down the cities.
you know my view on that, Greg, that the Democratic Party is no longer is it the party of JFK at all. It's kind of an umbrella for every reprobate group out there. And it's not JFK's Democratic Party. So the JFK Democrats have got to be really livid about this.
Uh, Chris Wallace, who's on Fox News, who's a huge Democrat. I mean, Hillary Clinton he was the only person that Hillary Clinton gave an interview to. Why? Because she knew that she could control him. That she was gonna
Right,
he was gonna ask her and hit her with hard questions.
right,
And
right.
that's what she said. There are limits on the First Amendment, and there are limits on the second. There are limits on the Second Amendment, and there are limits on the First. I heard her say it.
That's what the progressives believe. That's a Marxist ideology. Yeah.
And so let's just move on to your theme here. The greater theme is this is a Marxist takeover attempt. And it's more than just a takeover attempt. It's a takeover attempt of everything. And you brought up in the pre-interview the three C's: our culture, our Constitution, and Christianity. Could you explain the three C's?
Yeah, and I've been saying this for probably a couple of years now. The target. I call it C3. They're after the Constitution, as you just mentioned. They want to change the First and the Second Amendment for starters. That's the first C. The second is our culture. They want to change and eliminate traditional American values and U.S. sovereignty. And the third, the one that they pick out to attack, is Christianity itself. And why? Because all three of those stand in the way of Marxism, and all three of those stand in the way of radical Islam and the Nation of Islam, which is connected to Black Lives Matter. All three of those are the enemy. And that's why you see progressives and radical Islamicists joining together, because they have the common enemy and the common target, and that's C3, which is what I call it.
Um, and what about this new ruling at the Supreme Court? I'm thinking, wow, John Roberts, you strike again. and
Yeah.
now Neil Gorsuch,
Yeah.
where you can just I think I'm a woman, so therefore I identify with being a woman, even though the XY chromosomes and DNA don't agree with you. But you could just say whatever you could say. Hey, I am a giraffe. I'm a donkey. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't get it. I mean, but this is ominous implications for Christianity. Is that correct?
It is huge in terms of how dark this is, because now you have people they have placed transgenderism in the category of sex with protections, legal protections. That means affirmative action for transgenders. That means they're going to control speech. That employers will fire people because they don't use the proper pronoun for that transgender person. And even worse than all of that, that means that pastors and preachers and Christians who preach against that, essentially, some think is a mental illness, that teach against that can be sued.
And is this an effort to try to control Christianity, wipe out Christianity? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's the third C. Yes, it is. It's the third C, because as we know, Christianity and the scriptures teach against that kind of lifestyle. So this is a direct attack on Christianity. They've been after Christianity for 20 years now. That has intensified since Barack Obama was in office. And that's exactly what they're doing here, Greg.
wow. How do you combat something like that?
Well, first of all, and I don't mean to make light of this, but I'm serious about it. First of all, we pray. America was started with prayer. It's continued with prayer, and we need to keep praying about that. First of all, but secondly, we as Christians, it's time for us to stand up and stop allowing them to do this to our government and to our country. We're supposed to support our government as long as government is good. But if government starts doing things like abortion up to the ninth month and other things, we in the church, pastors, have got to maybe think twice about their tax exempt status. We have got to start standing up and decrying this and saying, not my Constitution, you don't. And the tradition of ours, America, are something that we need to stand up and fight for. And we as conservatives and we as Christians have got to start doing that.
Nigel Farage was quoted on, I think it was on Breitbart, saying, "I've never seen so many people so afraid to speak out." What's
Yeah.
up? Why are so many people cowering in the face of all this?
Well,
I mean,
it's it's the old Soviet propaganda technique. You call your enemy what you are, and they're calling everybody fascist when what they're doing is they are persecuting people for saying things like lives matter. People are losing their jobs. Sportscasters are losing their jobs for saying that. So you can't say all lives matter. You can't say blue lives matter. You can't say unborn lives matter. And you either kneel or you face the consequences. That is the definition of the thought police. That is fascism in its purest form. So they're doing the very thing they claim they're decrying and they're not doing. That's exactly what they're doing.
where does this end? Where are we going to take this to? Are we on track for another civil war?
I hate to say it, but I've been studying this intensively for several years now, and I hate to say it, but yeah, and they're pushing for that. They're pushing for a civil war, and we're actually in kind of a soft civil war right now. It just hasn't broken out into the streets. This will result in a civil war, and we have to remember, those of us out there, we are not the minority, and I'm not casting aspersion on gay Americans, but they're 4.85% of the population. Transgenders are 0.01% of the population. So your average American who loves the Constitution and traditional values is the majority. So they're making it look like they're majority because they have the media, but they're not. But yeah, to answer your question, Greg, sadly, I think there is. We're in the middle of a soft civil war right now, and I think there is going to be one.
Back to Chris Wallace. He said that and I think the Democrats are key here, not the Republicans or not the Trump supporters. I think the key is what are Democrats going to do? I
Yeah,
mean, are
I
they?
agree.
They believe this whole COVID thing is a lot more of a real pandemic and less of a scam than what other people do. I think it's been way overblown. Look at the governor of New York talking about locking things down again. They're talking about locking things. They only had I think something like 3 deaths recently, and all the death tolls are on their way down. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, that's right.
Including in Michigan, New York, you name it, they're all on the way down. Yet they're all having this scare, which is why we had this big point drop last week. There's a big scare. We're going to get another
Right.
lockdown. What do you
Right.
suppose is going on? Is this more of a psyop?
Right. These, and I think it is a psyop. The second wave is coming. And so what are they doing? They're locking down churches. They're locking down synagogues. They're locking down funerals, but they're allowing and saying nothing about these huge riots and the looting where people are packed in there by the hundreds. But that's okay. There's no COVID-19 amongst the rioters and the looters, but you better not go to church. And that just shows you right there the psyop quality of this whole thing.
And then we had another ruling about from again, thank you again, Chief Justice Roberts siding with the governors can shut you out of church, but yet let you go to Lowe's and Walmart.
Yeah, right. Figure that one out. Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
And finish my. I've yet to finish it. I'm sorry. Chris Wallace said that even Democrats, the overwhelming majority of Democrats, do not want the police departments defunded.
Yeah,
the overwhelming majority of blacks do not want police departments defunded. I mean, are they trying to, basically take over the police departments and put in, Marxist, fascist police into our police and drive out the good police and bring in the bad people?
That is exactly what they're doing. Remember that much of this is sponsored by George Soros and the Open Society Foundation, and he has contributed $33 million. Now, that didn't go directly to Black Lives Matter, and that's an important distinction, but it went into Marxist causes. So what Marxists have to do down through history in every single case is they have to eliminate law and order, and they have to eliminate law enforcement. And Democrats and Republicans and independents alike, none of them want to eliminate law enforcement. We all know that that's our protection against corruption and crime and murder and mayhem. So yeah, the majority of people, including Democrats, do not, and many have come out and said this, they do not want to defund or get rid of the police.
Why is this not being framed more as a Marxist communist attack, and it's being framed as I can't breathe and and all that? Why in the world is that not? Why is this being framed, like a civil, like a racial? A myth that cops are hunting down black people and murdering them?
Well, I've done talks before on mainstream media propaganda, and it's all about propaganda. It's all about affecting the minds of the people. And so if you're going to do that, you're going to have to avoid Marxism, terms like that. You're going to have to avoid progressive Marxism in terms like that. You're going to have to hide the fact that Black Lives Matter espouses the Nation of Islam, which calls all white people devils. You have to avoid all those things because it will destroy your propaganda narrative, and that's why they're doing it.
Let's move on to Barr. I got you here. Boy, we've been back and forth on this. One minute I think he's not doing anything, and then he comes out, and maybe it's because he's feeling pressure from people like you, and maybe some people like me saying, you're not doing anything. And then he's out with a series of interviews saying, oh yeah, it's going to be more than a report. It's going to be out this summer. And then, we see nothing going on with any arrests, any impaneling of a grand jury. What do you suppose is happening with this whole deep state deal?
Well, you know me, and the moment that we stop keeping our eyes on government officials and expecting them to abide by the Constitution, we're in trouble. So we should keep our eye on William Barr like we do everybody else in government. But as you and I talked about in the pre-interview, we are just as kind of in the dark as everybody else in that Barr and especially Durham are close holding their investigation. Nobody knows what they've got and the indictments that they may be planning because they're being good investigators. I was an investigator in counterintelligence, and you don't tip your hand or you don't leak your investigation facts to anybody, not the press, not even other members of government. So we have to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt right now, and that we just don't know what Barr has, and especially Barr has even said that he's turned it all over to Durham. It's all in Durham's hand. Even Barr has said that. So we're coming for a point where we just don't know a perspective. We just don't know what Durham has or what he's doing, and we probably won't until sometime this summer.
Are they trying to make it not look political? Are they trying to keep the politics out of it?
Well, I
don't know. I'm guessing.
I think they have to, in the regard that, on the one hand, justice delayed is justice denied. But on the other hand, anything that they do right now is going to be used against them as politicizing this indictment, politicizing this charge, what have you. So, yeah, I think well, they have to take into account the election because that's priority one. And we're going to have to, at least in my view, we're going to have to wait till after the election to see what is really going to happen. And that's just my opinion in terms of this whole investigation. We know they're not going to touch Obamagate. We know it looks like they're not going to touch Biden in Ukraine, but that doesn't mean they're not going to issue other indictments. And that just remains to be seen.
I did hear one of the top. Is it Ed Rollins? Is Ed Rollins the top Republican strategist? Is that him, Ed Rollins? And he said something that when you know the truth when you hear it, right? And he said, he said this about a month ago. I never brought this up. And he said, listen, you know what Trump needs to be working on? He needs to be working on the economy. That's number one.
Yeah,
he needs to be working on the economy and getting the country open. That's number two, getting the country open. Not anything. People don't really care about the prosecution of Obama or Biden or the coup or anything at this point. All they care about is the economy. Just like back to the thing that they came out. It's the economy, stupid. So is that what he needs to be doing? I mean, does he really even need to be doing this before the election? I mean, at the election, good people like Mark Taylor, he keeps saying that the hammer's going to drop, that they're going to, and I don't mean the hammer, the fake hammer. I mean the hammer, the real hammer, the fake hammer we all know is a hoax. The other hammer, the data collection hammer, hoax, total hoax. But anyway, but he says that the things are going to go badly, that you don't get in the way of what God has intended with Trump, and that he sees that these people are going to be brought down hard.
Well, I have great regard for Mark Taylor, and I also have great regard for what the scriptures teach, and that you reap what you sow. And it's clear that the wicked will reap what they sow, and justice will come. So on both those points, I'm really encouraged by what God can do as a result of prayer and bringing the wicked to justice. And that's something I believed ever since I left my checkered and shaded past and became a person of faith, that yes, God will bring justice to these people. He declares that in his word, and history is full of that.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to come back to this too is that, and I brought this up to you, and I just want to get your read on it. For a while, Trump was tweeting out and saying this is treason with this coup thing, this failed coup, and he was tweeting about. He's got 80 million Twitter followers. I mean, it's unbelievable. That's all the networks and newspapers combined, and they still can't touch actually the reach that the president has with Twitter. And so, but he's eerily silent in the last few weeks about what's going on, about what the coup, with Barr, Durham. He's not offering any criticism or even any comment. He called it treason multiple times. I think he's right. But what do you make of that? That he is just not talking about this. What do you make of that?
In my view, Trump is a brilliant strategist, and you made a very good point. Right now, it's all about the economy. People are hurting badly. They've lost their businesses. They lost their retirement. Many have lost their health insurance. And I think Trump understands that is priority one. And you don't want to bring these other things, as important as they may be, in to cloud that picture, because that's where people live. I think that's what he's doing. And I think wisely so. He's functioning in that area. And I think if anybody can bring this economy back, it's Donald Trump. And I think he will.
I'm going to bring this out here. This is kind of a surprise thing. I've been talking about how there's no reserves at the banks. And I had one of my normal emailers write me and say, hey, Greg, I've got a different take on this. Because it's pretty scary to have a bank with no reserves, right? And it's official action on the Federal Reserve. I've had interviews about it. My latest interview, I talk about how there's no reserves at the banks, and this with Bill Holter, smart guy. And he says it doesn't mean the bank system is stronger. It makes it weaker. But anyway, my point. And he said, I want to bring this out with you and get your take on it. He says, back in the Great Depression, they raised reserve requirements from 10 to 12%, and that caused banks to foreclose on people. Yeah. And this is the opposite of that they are trying to avoid foreclosures. I mean, some people are going to be foreclosed on. Some people are going to file for bankruptcy. I think Gold's Gym just filed for bankruptcy. Oh, no. Thank you, COVID-19. Not their fault. Not their fault.
No, yeah.
But anyway, what do you think about that action that they're, this is unlike anything we've ever seen in history, in the history of America, that they're lowering the reserve requirements, which is kind of a desperate move, and yet it's the opposite of what they did in the Great Depression. They tried to raise reserve requirements, and they caused all these foreclosures to happen. The banks went out and they were trying to add to their reserves, and they were foreclosing on everything. What do you make of that?
Yeah, no, I think, I'm no fan, as you know, of the Federal Reserve, but in the case we've got right now, we are in a serious economic situation in this country. And I agree with you. If they were to start doing that, we would see massive foreclosures. We don't need that right now. My goodness gracious, that would destroy our economy. So I would agree with that.
And with what we have with they're talking about $1 trillion stimulus package. I mean, I know you're not an economic expert, but $1 trillion infrastructure package. And Mitch McConnell is talking about having yet another. And the last one, he says, in terms of because they're going to get to the election, in terms of the COVID-19, help package to help people without the extended benefits, which we all knew was coming. That the extended, the enhanced
Right,
what do you call unemployment benefits?
right,
What do you think?
right.
What do you think of that? Do you think we can make it through the election and Trump can turn things back up with what he's doing?
I do. I do. People needed help badly. Now, sadly, with the unemployment benefits, these people are making more than they would under regular
Yeah, that's going to stop.
unemployment. So what's the incentive to go back to work? So they've got to stop that if they want to incentivize people to go back to work, which they're doing. And as I mentioned, Trump is a brilliant economic strategist. That's what he does. That's part of what got him elected. So that's what he's planning. And another stimulus, a $3 trillion stimulus. Uh, there are people that are really in financial trouble right now. And in terms of the election, I think that would boost Trump in terms of actually feeling and seeing some help. So I think that probably will happen as long as they don't keep it up, because we're talking trillions of dollars and our debt doesn't need that. But people are hurting badly right now.
Yeah, they're just so people understand, they're still going to get unemployment. They're not going to get the
Right,
enhanced, where people, well, I'm
right,
making more in unemployment than it was in my
right,
job. That's going to end. That
right,
that part of it's going to end.
right.
Then I want to talk to you a little bit about kevinshipp.com, your website. You've got fortheloveoffreedom.net, but you're changing your website. You're going to have more of Kevin, basically, a platform where you can put out more content and more stuff. You want to talk about your platform that's going to go live either today or either the next few days, if not today. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Thanks, Greg. We've got a meeting today, and it looks like after the meeting, we will probably roll out kevinshipp.com, and all of fortheloveoffreedom.net, including all the documents, will automatically roll over to kevinshipp.com. And we got some really things we're really excited about there, in that I'll be posting a lot of my videos there. We'll be having the daily brief there, a lot of kind of conservative, patriot directed news stories that are coming out that people are interested in. And we'll be posting a lot of content on kevinshipp.com. So we've been working on it for several months now, but it looks like after today, we'll start the rollout.
Yeah, so kevinshipp.com. So instead of fortheloveoffreedom.net, it'll be
Right,
kevinshipp.com for the love of freedom. Is that right?
right.
That's going to be your
That's
tagline.
exactly right.
For
Yep.
the love of freedom. Listen, I know we've been through this, but you got hammered by your old bosses at the CIA for whistleblowing something that could get other fellow CIA officers killed in a database. That was a flaw in the database. I'll leave it at that. And you were punished pretty severely, and you lost your pension, and you lost a lot of money, and you fought these guys, which is why part of the reason you had to try to generate income by this book. If you want to support Kevin Shipp, I am put all the stuff in the after the interview section, which is his Patreon channel, and the snail mail address, a link to the book, and your Patreon channel. What do you have coming up on your next Patreon?
Yes, I put members only things there, some of which we're really happy about, but it's patreon.com/Kevin_Shipp. And I put a lot of cutting edge videos on there. I just did one on Black Lives Matter and the Nation of Islam, and things that are for members only. And we have to generate income because, as you mentioned, I did lose my pension when I blew the whistle. So that's how we pay the bills, and that's where the income comes from. We got some really, really cool patrons that have joined us. So that's something that I really enjoy.
And every Thursday, is that come out every Thursday? Is that correct?
Yes, we have the Ship Intelligence Report every Thursday. Then I have the politically incorrect news analysis, where I just address news that really bugs conservatives and people standing for traditional values. And then every now and then I'll put, if there's something really important as a news update, I'll put that out for members also.
Okay, all right, super. Kevin Shipp, the new website, you can get to him for theloveoffreedom.net. You're still going to direct all the stuff there. If that's the way you come in there, you'll end up seeing Kevin Shipp with 2Ps.com. Kevin Shipp, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com for a midweek update.
Greg, always a pleasure. Thank you.